I'm Mark Olive, and I'd like to address a program we're airing tonight, which is somewhat controversial. It's a presentation of one of the premier Jewish organizational events of the year, the annual Zionist Organization of America dinner, in which ZOA President Mort Klein honors people who have made enormous contributions to the state of Israel or to Jewish life. And we are pleased to be able to air the evening's ZOA celebration with you. Now, we recognize that there are those in the Jewish community who are not fans of ZOA, which is known to be on the political right. At the same time, ZOA has earned enormous respect. At the last Zionist Congress of America, World Zionist Congress of America, held this year in Basel, Switzerland, only one organization and only one organizational leader was honored. The organization was ZOA. The leader was Mort Klein. So each year, we televise the ZOA dinner, just as we televise the AJC's Global Forum or the Reform Movement's biennial every other year. But this year, the ZOA dinner honored someone who many Jews despise, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And since he is such a controversial figure, I was asked to consider not showing the ZOA dinner this year. I was uncomfortable with that suggestion, for it would mean that JBS would participate in the cancel culture, which I abhor. You never solve any problem or dispute by shutting down free speech. And as a typical Jewish liberal kid growing up in America, freedom of speech was not only sacrosanct, it was a major reason we as Jews have done so well in this country. From the time President George Washington wrote to the Jews of Newport, Rhode Island, ours is a government which to bigotry gives no sanction, to persecution no assistance, but generously affording to all liberty of conscience and immunities of citizenship, deeming everyone of whatever nation, tongue, or language equal parts of our great governmental machine. And so I decided I would not cancel our showing the ZOA dinner because they honored Donald Trump. After all, he was president of the United States, and he has a very good chance of being the nominee of the Republican Party in the next presidential election. But then Donald Trump invited to dinner in Mar-a-Lago two individuals who have a hideous record of making outrageous anti-Semitic statements. One was Kanye West, who has made numerous anti-Jewish statements, including, "I am going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." And whether he meant it literally or not, he was saying he was going to murder Jews. And when West came to Mar-a-Lago, he brought a friend with him named Nick Fuentes, known to be a vicious anti-Semite. And when it was pointed out to Donald Trump that he had just had dinner with two anti-Semites and had said nothing to denounce the evil of their anti-Semitism, Donald Trump responded by refusing to apologize for having had dinner with two anti-Semites, nor would he say anything about the hideousness of their anti-Semitism. And to the Jewish world, this was beyond the pale. It was totally unacceptable. And more highly respected Jews who have influence due to their ability to be articulate or due to their financial power, they came out saying it is no longer permissible for a Jew to support Donald Trump. And in this context, I understood why some in the Jewish world would want to cancel Donald Trump and even want GABS to cancel him as well. And so I thought, before I now play the ZOA dinner, it's important for you to hear from the one man honored in Basel by the World Zionist Congress, who had invited Donald Trump to his dinner this year, the ZOA dinner, President Mort Klein. And I wanted Mort to tell us, had he known about the Mar-a-Lago evening, would he still have invited Donald Trump to be a guest of honor at the ZOA's annual dinner? And I am pleased now to have Mort Klein with us. Mort, you've had a few sleepless nights over this entire issue. How are you holding up?
It's been a very painful period for me and many Jews, many people. I mean, Donald Trump was the greatest friend to Israel in the White House we've ever had. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, while Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama refused to, even though it's U.S. law. He's issued executive orders to help fight anti-Semitism in schools. He stopped the $500 million in aid to the Palestinian Authority, as long as the Palestinians still spend $400 million a year to pay Arabs to murder Jews. They pay Arabs to murder Jews. Trump said, we're not giving you any more money to help with that. And by the way, Joe Biden reinstated that money and more. He now gives them $800 million, while they're still spending all this money to pay, incentivize Arabs to murder Jews. He said, executive order, all the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, are legal. He declared sovereignty over the Golan for Israel. Israel has a right to keep it. And of course, most famously, he signed the Abraham Accords. He made peace between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. He should receive a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I believe if he wasn't Donald Trump, it was someone else, they would have given him a Nobel Peace Prize, because he surely deserves it. So he's been a tremendous friend. No Jewish organization said, thank you, Mr. President, for what you've done for Israel. Extraordinary record of accomplishment of helping Israel. And we felt a moral duty to say, thank you, Mr. President. So we honored him. Yet we're appropriately troubled by the fact that he brought two vicious Jew haters, a white supremacist and Holocaust denier as well, to Mar-a-Lago for dinner. As you mentioned, Kanye West has praised Hitler and Farrakhan, said Jews control the Black voice. Nick Fuentes, who had dinner there, is a Holocaust denier. He said, I will PISS on your Jewish Torah and Talmud. I don't want to even say the word. He said, Jews serve the devil. Jews drive all wars. This is a vicious, extraordinary Jew hater. We simply asked Trump to repudiate these despicable figures, to simply say their statements, their policies, their beliefs are despicable. They're monstrous. They have no place in American society. And if you don't, and if President Trump doesn't do this, it helps legitimize and mainstream these people's ugly statements. So it's very important he do this. He has not done this. That's painful.
By the way, Mort, when you say you asked him, I assume you mean ZOA, asked him to apologize. And did you get to communicate to him yourself?
We didn't ask him to apologize. We asked him to publicly repudiate these despicable statements by these two guys.
Okay. Did you speak to him yourself?
We sent him a memo detailing this, and we have not heard back. We have not heard back. But of course, he knows, our statements have been all over the news. Of course, he knows what we said, what we stated. We simply asked him to repudiate these outrageous statements. That's all. But unfortunately, it's been his modus operandi never to say anything about something he did that was not right. He doesn't seem to be comfortable doing that. But I have to say something else that's important. Yes, it's appropriate for the Jewish world and the moral non-Jewish world to be disgusted by Donald Trump not repudiating this publicly. But it's quite interesting. When President Joe Biden this past year made a public speech praising Rashida Tlaib publicly, a woman who calls Israel a racist Nazi state, said we must end relations with Israel, end giving any aid to Israel. Israel's not an ally. She's taken pictures with terrorists, and she's a powerful woman. She's a member of Congress. And Joe Biden said, Rashida, I admire your intellect, your passion, your concern, and God thanks you for being a great fighter. She's a great fighter against Jews. She's an anti-Semite. She's a Jew hater. And nobody said a word about this much more troubling situation where you have a sitting president not refusing to repudiate, worse, praising this person. And Hadi Amar, only this week, Hadi Amar is a top State Department official who deals with the Palestinian-Israel situation. He has now been given a new top position with much more power and responsibility, Hadi Amar, that affects Israel situation with the Palestinian Authority. Hadi Amar has said he's inspired by the Palestinian terror war, that Israel ethnically cleanses Arabs. He called for ending aid to Israel. Don't use U.S. vetoes against anti-Israel resolutions in the United Nations. He condemned the killing of Hamas terrorists. This is a horrific individual who has enormous power. So this is much worse than what Trump has done. And yet I'm not familiar with anyone but ZOA who's condemned President Biden for appointing this terrible person, this terrible Jew hater, to a very important post with real power. So I find it extraordinary that people rightly criticizes Trump for not repudiating this anti-Semitism, but what Joe Biden has done is much worse, much more dangerous, by praising powerful people like Rashida Tlaib and Hadi Amar, putting an important post. And by the way, Speaker Pelosi took a picture with the major Jew haters in Congress, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, for the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, with his big smiles, giving legitimacy to these anti-Semites. I'm not aware of anyone in the Jewish community except us who said a word about this. And by the way, this very week, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who did he bring to Qatar for the World Soccer tournaments with him? Ilhan Omar. Why is the Secretary of State giving respect to an anti-Semite by bringing her with him to these tournaments? I didn't hear anyone complaining. That doesn't minimize the problem of what Donald Trump did, not repudiating this. He should, he must. But other major officials have done worse, and there's been essentially a deafening silence. Mm-hmm. That has to be understood. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. It's very important what you just said. While you gave us a litany of very disturbing things that may be happening right now within the Biden administration. None of it has anything to do with Donald Trump having dinner with two vicious anti-Semites, and he may not have known who Fuentes was, although he's president. He should have advisors who tell him who these people are. And your point is, it's the fact that he did not repudiate what they stand for in terms of their anti-Semitism. It's that, not the dinner itself. It has been the silence from Donald Trump. And you also say, and I think, look, I don't know the man at all. And like everybody else, my perception is created by what we are told and see on television. But you pointed out, he doesn't seem to be a man who is capable of saying, I made a mistake. And here, he really needs to be able to say it. Now, the question that I built into the open is, would Mort, had this, lucky for you, this dinner didn't happen before the ZOA dinner, because when the ZOA dinner occurred and he was honored and he was applauded multiple times and gave, by the way, a very wonderful pro-Israel speech, which JBS viewers will be able to see coming up right after our discussion. It worked out well for you, that dinner, and people were very happy to share the evening with you. But I don't know what you would have done. And I have enormous respect for you, more than when people tell me, oh, he's too outspoken. I said, what are you talking about? He's the leader of a Zionist organization, explaining why or reacting to assaults on Israel. And, if you think he's wrong, show me where he's been wrong. But don't tell me you don't want him to talk. Don't tell me you won't sit at a table with him. Oh, tell me in essence, you want to deny him free speech and, try to cancel him. I find that Jewishly immoral and hideous. But I am saying to you, Mort, because it'll help me personally. What would you have done? Would you still have had him at the dinner? Or would you have reluctantly said, Mr. President, unless you publicly disavow every piece of their anti-Semitism, it would be inappropriate for ZOA to honor you? Or would you feel that the list of amazing accomplishments Donald Trump was able to effect during his presidency, and we didn't even talk about what he did for America and for American Jewry also, but is the list does the positive list of things he's done outweigh the fact that he's unable to disavow or really come down hard on two anti-Semites? This is a hypothetical, to be sure, but you're a very bright man, and I'm asking you to really consider, what do you think you and ZOA, what would your supporters, what would your, the people who give you money and people who are on the front lines for you, what would they have wanted? You're in a different position than I am in. You are responsible to people for virtually everything ZOA does. But What do you think your supporters would have said, and what would you have said to them?
First of all, his extraordinary record of benefiting Israel and the Jewish people, helping us with anti-Semitism on campuses as well. That record is not diminished by his thoroughly inappropriate refusal to repudiate these Jew haters. His record stands. What he's done, it's there. There's now much closer possibilities of peace in the Middle East because of him. Israel's in much better shape because of him. Nonetheless, had his refusal to repudiate these Jew haters happened before the dinner, at a minimum, it would have put a great damper on the whole dinner. I don't think he would have gotten a 5-minute standing ovation when he walked in the room as he did at the dinner. I don't think he would have been interrupted repeatedly during his speech with applause and standing ovations. I mean, look, at the dinner we had Alan Dershowitz, we had Miri Adelson, ardent Zionists as part of this dinner. They were happy to be part of this dinner. We had a great general from Israel, General Aviv, and Jason Greenblatt was there, one of the top lieutenants to Trump, achieving these things for Israel. So I don't know what would happen. If this was before the dinner, I would have gone to my executive committee and my board and say, let's have a discussion and let's make a decision. I don't know what they would have said. I'm grateful I didn't have to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's conceivable they would have felt we can't go through with this and can't honor him. But it's conceivable they'd say, look, his record is still extraordinary. We never a record like this for Israel in history. And we should honor him even though there'll be a damper. So I don't know the answer to that. I would not have made that decision myself. My executive committee and my board would have made that ultimate decision.
Mort, would you like JBS to show your dinner with Donald Trump?
Yes, I think people, look, there's many people you have on JBS who make statements that are hostile to Israel. One individual you had on for a long interview who said Israel shouldn't exist as a Jewish state. I don't want to mention his name. You gave him an hour or more in an interview. So surely if you have such an individual on, to have the greatest friend Israel ever had in the White House to be on JBS, I think he should be there. Let people see what he has to say. Let their hostility can remain. My discomfort remains with his refusal to repudiate this despicable Jew hatred by these two terrible individuals. But I think he should be heard.
Oh, okay. I have one more question to ask you. There have been some individuals, such as Jonathan Tobin, who have said it's time for Jews now to, in general, and it doesn't matter what word you use, what he meant was stop supporting Trump. Do you feel that this dinner is worthy of that response? That after that dinner, Jews in general, whatever their political persuasion, should not support Trump? Do you go that far?
Well, it's interesting. And I would ask Jonathan or anyone, why didn't he make this statement when Obama forced this terrible Iran Accord, which endangers Israel in a terrible way, which gives a pathway to nukes for Iran, this terrible Islamic terrorist regime? Or when he refused to veto one of the worst anti-Israel resolutions ever the UN passed, which said everything past the 67 line is Arab territory, meaning the Western Wall, the Jewish quarter. Why didn't people say we can't ever have anything to do with him anymore? Or Joe Biden, that I just mentioned, praising Jew haters and appointing in almost every post, way beyond Hadi Amar that I mentioned, almost every post of importance is someone hostile to Israel. Why has Jonathan Tobin or anyone else said we can't abide by Joe Biden anymore? Didn't say that. So I don't agree with that. Obviously, I'm a nonprofit organization. I can't support or reject anyone for any political office. But I would really ask these people who are so understandably furious, and rightly so, about Trump. Why aren't you more furious about Joe Biden, Obama, the terrible things they've done to Israel? I didn't hear any of that. I'll tell you, I wrote an article, or it was written, I didn't write it, it was written. When Obama met with us at the White House, he said to all of us, you Jewish leaders must speak to your friends and relatives and see if you're serious about peace. Because I don't think Israel's serious about peace, but Mahmoud Abbas is sincere about peace, and everyone knows it. You can keep all of the Jewish areas of Jerusalem. You can't keep the Arab areas. This was reported widely in the Jewish media. I don't know of any public major Jewish leader who condemned this. This was an atrocious thing to have said. So why is it when there's anti-Semitism and Jew hatred and Israel bashing on the left, it seems to just be allowed to go to be ignored, but for when it's someone on the right, all hell breaks loose. You may use that term. So I think that's a question that has to be asked of Jonathan Tobin, who's a brilliant writer and a great intellect. I respect him enormously. But why didn't he go as far with Biden and Obama when they did much worse things, much serious danger to Israel and the Jewish people, compared to this terrible mistake that President Trump has made?
I think you say it beautifully. And, I think the most highly of you as a Jewish leader who represents the best in what we want our leadership to be. And, you are always welcome on JBS. I'm sorry you've had to deal with this painful issue. And I hope basically, as other things, it fades into the background and we continue on. And again, I am showing the ZOA dinner because I feel anybody who doesn't want to watch can turn it off. But if they want to see the dinner, they want to see what Donald Trump said, you speak brilliantly at the dinner, they want to see what you say, they should have a chance to do it. And the only way they do it is through JBS. And again, as I said in the open, I don't want JBS to be part of the cancel culture. I do understand, as you do, that people really feel that Donald Trump is an anathema to themselves, to the society, to America. I understand it. And they never have to watch. Or they can watch to learn and know exactly what somebody they don't like is saying and go from there. But I thank you for going out of your way to give me time on this. I know you're besieged. You were just on CNN before you came on JBS, so it's really an honor. And, you look terrific, by the way. So I hope all good things for you, and we will both meet and speak again very shortly. Thank you, Mort Klein.
Well, thank you. And you look terrific, thank God. And may God continue to improve your health and give you good health.
Thank you.
And I might also say, you mentioned that we are perceived as right-wing, but truth is not a political position. Telling the truth about issues is not a political position. By our saying that Gaza was going to fail, that the Gaza withdrawal would be a disaster, that Jews have a right to live in Judea and Samaria, just as Arabs have a right to live in Israel. To me, that's all the truth. I don't understand why any of that is right-wing. So we are rational centrists as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, okay. Well, when we're on together, we'll discuss a little bit more about that. It's an interesting perspective. It's hard for me to believe you don't understand why people think of ZOA on the right when all of your positions, even though they may be right, but the fact that they're right doesn't make them less on the right as well. But it doesn't matter. All I know is you're out there fighting for Israel and fighting for the Jews. God bless you, Mort Klein. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark Golub, Rabbi Golub. Thank you.
The thoughts of Mort Klein, president of ZOA, the Zionist Organization of America. I hope he has communicated his thinking and perspective, and I hope you understand why we will be airing the ZOA dinner for you now. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with your own thoughts or comments. Simply write to me at rabbigolub@jbstv.org. And so until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
They say there's a country, a land that flows with sunlight. Where is that country? Where is that sunlight? They say there's a country whose 7 pillars are there. There bloom on every hilltop 7 wandering stars. A land where is fulfilled all a man can hope. Everyone who enters, Akiva does approach. Shalom to you, Akiva. Peace be with you, Rabbi. Where are they, the holy? Where are the Maccabees? Answers him Akiva. Says to him the rabbi, all Israel is holy. You are the Maccabees. And you are the Maccabees. You are the Maccabees. When Saul Shenachovsky wrote that poem, it reflected the longing for Zion, an ancient longing for the Jewish people. He eventually settled in Palestine. He was a doctor and a poet, and a great tribute to the Jewish people. But this reflected the longing throughout Eastern Europe and then into Western Europe, as we well know. In 1897, from August 29th to August 31st, Theodor Herzl convened the First Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. Its aim was the establishment for the Jewish people a publicly and legally assured home in Palestine. Its platform included promoting the settlement of Jews engaged in agriculture, Jewish artisans, tradesmen, and manufacturers, the uniting of all Jews and Jewish organizations around the world, the strengthening and fostering of Jewish national sentiment and national consciousness, and taking preparatory steps toward obtaining the consent of governments where necessary to achieve the Zionist purpose. Also in 1897, 125 years ago this year, following this First Zionist Congress in Basel, a small group of Jews in America, against great resistance over concerns about dual loyalty claims, prioritizing assimilation in America, and other obstacles, created the organization now known as Your Zionist Organization of America. We have wonderful and accomplished honorees this evening, and you will hear all about them and their great service.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
It's very difficult, Mr. President, to express the gratitude of everyone in this room for you joining us tonight. It's a very, very special occasion, and you've made it even more special. Thank you very much for so graciously agreeing to come tonight. All right, folks. I can think of one guest, to be named later, who, despite one after another attack that occupied his tenure, stood up for Israel when others had only promised, and is responsible for, you name it, the historic Abraham Accords, moving our embassy where it has always belonged in Jerusalem, recognizing that the Golan Heights are a part of Israel and always will be, putting an end to the Palestinian pay-for-slay program that rewarded killers of American and Israeli citizens. Calling out the United Nations Human Rights Council for the enabler of terrorism and anti-Semitism that it is, and refusing to be a part of that corrupt enterprise. And so much more.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, and especially my past college mate from Wharton, President Trump. I take extreme great pleasure in awarding Ali Melly the first annual Stephen Sass Righteous Friend of Zion Award. Ali was born and raised in Iran. Most significant, however, has been his prominent position advancing freedom for the Iranian people. Ali, please come up and accept the award from Mort and myself.
Our beloved President Trump, Honorable Mort Klein, ZOA Chairman David Schoen, fellow honorees, it is my great honor to receive this award and to dedicate it to many Iranians who have risen up to oppose the Shiite fundamentalist regime of the Ayatollahs. The protests across the streets of Iran and from windows and rooftops all resound to remind us of values cherished across our shared heritage. Values of liberty, freedom, and the willingness to defend individual rights. I also use this occasion to thank President Trump for his impeccable judgment when he ordered the killing of nefarious IRGC commander Qasem Soleimani. Thank you, President Trump. Mr. President, if it wasn't for your decisive intervention, Qasem Soleimani would be alive and will be busy killing my brothers and sisters who are protesting the Ayatollahs even as we speak. President Trump, thank you for helping Middle East get rid of Soleimani. Thank you. Leader McCarthy, congratulations on your re-election and thank you for being an ally to President Trump. The GOP is presented with a unique opportunity to fight back and drain the swamp. I hope that high on your agenda is to stop any aspirations that Biden administration has for restarting the disastrous nuclear deal. The money that Obama gave to the Ayatollahs, and Biden has been so eager to start giving to them again, is being used to fund terrorism across the Middle East, from Hamas in Gaza to Lebanon and Yemen. The drone program that the nuclear deal financed is now expanded outside Middle East and is being used in Ukraine to attack and terrorize civilian targets. We cannot, on one hand, be sending taxpayer dollars to Ukraine, while on the other hand, abet regimes to provide weapons to their attackers. We should be unrelenting in our opposition to any appeasement of the Ayatollahs. We should also be unrelenting in our pursuit of the foreign policy swamp that enabled this travesty. I'm sad to inform you that US taxpayer dollars have for the past decade been used by the swamp to subsidize this menace. In particular, there are two central areas of waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer dollars that have financed and supported anti-Semitic voices and colluded with the Ayatollah. They are the US State Department and Voice of America, each of them disgracefully at the center of this scandal. Over the past 10 years, the Voice of America Persian service has become a partisan tool for Get Out the Vote campaign for the Democrats. In 2016, one of its so-called journalists produced a campaign video attacking President Trump. The video is still available on VOA's website, even after House Freedom Caucus Chairman Scott Perry launched an investigation into it. For years, also VOA Persian has broadcast negatively biased coverage of Israel. The same journalist who produced the anti-Trump broadcast from Voice of America has her social media filled with anti-Israeli images. The antics of the State Department, in particular the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, and a few other benign-sounding programs are equally disturbing. These programs receive tens of millions of dollars annually for various Iran and Middle East-related initiatives, with most of that money directly or indirectly feeding left-wing activists. Many of these activists have well-documented and public history of anti-Semitism and holistic hostility towards Israel and US allies. But they serve a purpose for their cynical paymasters. When the Obama-Biden administration needed to create the illusion of support to help them ram through their disastrous nuclear deal, the groups funded through these programs were among the most enthusiastic cheerleaders for the Iran nuclear deal, something that Obama officials gleefully called the echo chamber that they had created. Many of these State Department-funded groups and personalities also serve as a campaign arm for the Democratic Party, with one supposed Iran activist openly endorsing Joe Biden as the candidate suited to saving American liberal democracy. What a lie. Using US taxpayer dollars as campaign piggy bank for Democrat Party is illegitimate and unethical, and sometimes worse. As the incoming Congress under your auspicious leadership comes to power, we hope that and pray that these programs at VOA and the State Department are totally and completely defunded. US government should not be in the business of funding anti-Semitism and anti-Semites. Unfortunately, hostility to the US and to the US allies in the Middle East has found a home in the US Congress and the Democratic Party. Members of this unholy alliance attack America, American values, and American allies in the Middle East, including Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is epitomized by shameful actions of Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Always a cheerleader for aiding Ayatollahs enabling the nuclear deal, Chris Murphy is ever at the ready to attack US allies in the Middle East. Chris Murphy, who receives funding and donations from groups with close ties to the Iranian government, enthusiastically attacks Israel at every opportunity. In his most recent shameful blackmail, he threatened another US friend and ally, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and blamed them for high gas prices that are actually a direct result of Biden administration's domestic energy policy and its hostility to domestic American oil and gas production. In addition, it was Senator Murphy who led the charge in calling on Biden administration to lift foreign terrorist organization designation that President Trump put in place against IRGC. Murphy took to social media and national television on multiple occasions to make his case heard. Senator Murphy, shame on you. I'm thankful to my dear friend, Congressman Scott Perry, for taking him on and to publicly call Murphy out for these antics. In closing, thanks to President Trump's efforts, along with Jason Greenblatt, who is a fellow honoree this evening, the process of establishing peace between our allies in Israel, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Morocco, and United Arab Emirates is now a reality. God bless America, God bless Israel, and God bless the freedom-loving people of Iran. Thank you.
Here to present the Myron Zimmerman Security of Israel Award, Myron Zimmerman.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. I'd like to introduce retired General Amira Vivi. Thank you very much, and please applaud this amazing man. I don't know if you know how much he helps Israel. Supports so many organizations. Myron, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Mort, for hosting me today. You know, when I went in the website of the ZOA for the first time, one of the first things I saw is ZOA says we should be an apologetic Zionist, and this is exactly the right message that should be said all over the Jewish world. And we have to remember what Zionism is. You know, I talk a lot to the young generation in Israel, me and thousands of officers that we deploy to pre-army programs in high schools. And each time I stand before dozens of young Israelis, I ask them, define me Zionism. And nobody answers. And maybe one guy stands, raises his hands, and says, Zionism is the love of Israel. And I say no, Zionism is a very, very simple, holistic idea. It's a national home for the Jewish people in Eretz Israel, in their ancestral homeland. We are the people of Israel, and this is the land of Israel, and it's ours. It's that simple. And the moment you start playing around with it, the moment you say, I'm a Zionist, but we are occupiers. I'm a Zionist, but maybe we should change our national anthem. I'm a Zionist, but I don't believe in settling anymore, or Aliyah. At that moment, you are breaking the whole concept that everything that is going on in the Jewish world today has to do with the misunderstanding that when you take this whole idea and start breaking it to pieces, bad things happen. Now, I've fought for 30 years in the army, in all operations and wars, leading thousands of soldiers in combat. And I can tell you from my experience that in those many years, unfortunately, I've seen very bad decision-making by different governments. We had Oslo, we had the disengagement, and we had to deal with these repercussions. We had to fight in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza, in Lebanon, and deal with all these issues. And I was very worried about what I was seeing also in the education system. People take Israel for granted. And in the Israeli education system, they don't talk anymore about Zionism, about patriotism, about what it is to be a Jew, why we are here. And this is how we find ourselves in a very, very big paradox. And the paradox you will all understand. On one hand, we are a very, very powerful country. We have a strong army. We are a startup nation. We have a flourishing economy and culture. And although we are powerful, and we haven't been as a nation powerful like that since the days of King David, and although we are so powerful, many, many Jews, I am sure many of you, feel that something is very, very wrong. Something is wrong. And what is wrong is that we are losing our conviction. We are losing our will. You know, the most strong power in the world is will. But will needs fuel. And the fuel is our sense of rightness. It's the understanding who we are and why we are here. This is Zionism. This is the connection to who we are. And we, Israeli generals and commanders, we deal with national security. And what is national security? It's first and foremost about our national aspirations. It's about patriotism. It's about a deep connection to Judaism and to who we want to be. And this is something that is lacking. And because of that, we all feel that something is missing. Because when you don't have conviction, when you don't have spirit, no tank, no airplane, no cyber can help you. It's first and foremost about spirit. Anybody who has been in the battlefield understands that without spirit, without understanding what you are fighting for, you will lose war. We have seen empires that have lost wars because they didn't have the convictions and the belief that they are doing the right thing. Today, the Israeli Defense Security Forum, known in Hebrew as Abitronistim, with 60,000 officers and commanders, what we do is reinvigorate Zionism. We go to the high school and pre-army programs and we talk to the young generation. And because we are a grassroots movement, we don't only brief them and talk to them, we bring them into our movement so we can talk to them in a way that is ongoing. We understand that we have to shape the Israeli society, so we are active on media and social media, even TikTok. Even there we got. But we also understand that we have to talk to the decision makers. So we have a strong research department, and we are very, very close contact with the government of Israel, with the Knesset, but also with diplomats all over the world and here in the States as well. My last comment is that we are living in a very defining moment for Israel and the Jewish people. We are in a historical moment that we have a chance to really make huge change. We need finally sovereignty in the Jordan Valley. And we need sovereignty in the Jewish towns in Judea and Samaria. And we need governance. We need governance in the Negev, in the Galil. The Jewish people in Israel are fed up with being insecure. They want the police and the army and the law to do their job. And this is what these elections were all about. So now we have an opportunity to deal with the big threats around us, with Iran, with the Palestinian Arabs. And there is a new government, and I'm saying to the representatives, my friends from the Knesset, you got elected, now it's time to do the right things for the people of Israel. Now it's time to go to work, and we will assist you. We'll give you the public umbrella to do everything needed to succeed. Thank you very much.
All right. Our next presenter by video is one of the best known and most distinguished lawyers in our country, and I'm proud to say my dear friend. His clients have included Natan Sharansky, Klaus von Bülow, and O.J. Simpson. He's an emeritus professor at Harvard Law School, prolific author, vocal defender of individual rights, and a vocal defender of the State of Israel. Though they don't see eye to eye on everything, our next presenter and ZOA National President Mort Klein share a warm and respectful friendship, because they're both committed Zionists with a deep love for the Jewish state of Israel. Please help me welcome Professor Alan Dershowitz, who's joining us this evening by video to present the Dr. Bob Shulman Outstanding Diplomacy Award to an absolutely extraordinary man who we're honored to have here tonight.
Hi, I'm Alan Dershowitz, and I wish I could be there in person to present this wonderful Dr. Bob Shulman Award to Jason Greenblatt, but I'm in Israel right now, so I have to do this by tape. But that doesn't diminish in any way my enthusiasm for Jason Greenblatt. He's one of the very few people in modern times who will be remembered by history forever for having helped engineer the very important Abraham Accords. I know the role he played because I played a small role. He played a great role in the Abraham Accords, which sent a powerful message to the Palestinian Authority that peace with other Arab states could be achieved despite the failure of the Palestinian Authority to engage in any kind of reasonable negotiations toward peace. So it's my great honor to present this award that's named after Dr. Shulman to the great Jason Greenblatt. Mazel tov.
I'm so grateful to be here in this room with so many people who love the United States of America and the Jewish state of Israel. Judaism incorporates the concept of karat hatov, gratitude, into our daily lives. And so allow me to begin by expressing my gratitude to some of the people who traveled with me on my journey to this podium. First, of course, is President Donald Trump, an amazing president, someone I was privileged to work for 23 years. He was and is a strong fighter against anti-Semitism and an incredible friend to the Jewish state of Israel. He is a leader who created history-altering policies with respect to Israel and the Middle East because he was not wed to false diplomatic norms, because he understood that the Middle East is the most dangerous neighborhood on the planet. I'd also like to thank Jared Kushner. Jared's passion for Israel and for peace and his eternal optimism were always inspiring to me, no matter how daunting the issue. I was blessed to work with so many other wonderful colleagues who helped President Trump realize his historic achievements. I won't go through the achievements, you heard them so many times tonight, but they really were incredible. I have to recognize the courageous, bold leaders from the Middle East who signed the Abraham Accords, and those who have not yet signed the Abraham Accords, but still supported us quietly behind closed doors. Thank you, of course, to the Zionist Organization of America and to Mort Klein for everything they do and all of you do for defending Israel and the Jewish people, for fighting against anti-Semitism, and for strongly standing by the Trump administration when we were in office. One of the few, perhaps only, mainstream Jewish organization that was consistently doing that again and again and again. I'm very humbled to receive this meaningful honor, the Dr. Rob Shillman Outstanding Diplomat Award. But last, and certainly not least, I'd like to thank my incredible wife, Naomi, and my 6 amazing children, Noah, Julia, Anna, Sophia, Avery, and Vera. Without your constant, patient support, understanding, encouragement, and love, nothing I would have done or experienced would have been possible. I've never had the opportunity to do this before, and they're going to be annoyed at me for doing it, but I'm going to ask them to stand up so we can clap for them. Also, my amazing sons-in-law, Gabe and Eric, who we love very deeply, who joined our family last year. Friends, we're at a very unique point in our history now. We have a strong state of Israel, a democratic, thriving state that people from near and far respect and admire, no matter what some people in Congress and certain journalists say about the incoming Israeli government. Israel is a country that, while not perfect, because no country is, it offers so much to its citizens, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, and others. But the enemies and the critics of the state of Israel are many. Since Israel's founding, we have witnessed countless outrageous attacks on the only functioning democracy in the Middle East. The actual history of Israel has been replaced by an alternative narrative, a carefully contrived narrative advanced by the Palestinian leadership and others. People who make up facts, grotesquely distort history, and are very successful in doing so. Time and again, the Palestinian leadership and their friends falsely claim that all the misfortunes of the Palestinians are the result not of their own making, but of the state of Israel. President Trump and we in the Trump administration rejected those false claims and instead committed ourselves to speaking hard truths and to good faith negotiations. We threw out the old diplomatic handbook because the old rule book doesn't resonate with today's reality. We challenged the conventional wisdom that America has to be what people refer to as an honest broker and indifferent to the fate of its chief ally in negotiations with the Palestinians. President Trump also refused to ignore the threat of the Iranian regime. Let's be clear. The Iranian regime wants to wipe Israel from the face of the earth and erase it from the memory of man. To the Iranian regime, though, Israel is merely the little Satan. After Israel, Tehran has its eyes on those beautiful growing cities in the Gulf countries, and then it will direct its appetite toward what it calls the great Satan, the United States of America. All of these policies help pave the way to the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords demonstrate conclusively that former Secretary of State John Kerry was completely wrong when he claimed that peace between Israel and its Arab neighbors was impossible without Israel accepting the creation of a Palestinian state on the unyielding terms of the Palestinian leadership. Friends, the Middle East today is undergoing a profound transformation. Confronted by an increasingly emboldened Iran outside their borders and young populations thirsting for a better future, the most forward-looking leaders realize that Israel is not the problem, but in fact is part of the solution. So what's next for the region? Well, the region is on a wonderful but complicated journey. I started my remarks by talking about gratitude. We have a variety of prayers to express gratitude. But in Judaism, there's also another important prayer, the traveler's prayer, Tfilat HaDerech, that we recite as we embark on a journey. Muslims, too, have a traveler's prayer, which some of the airlines broadcast when they take off. When I fly one of these airlines and I hear the Muslim prayer being recited, I'm reminded by how similar Jews and Muslims often are, because at that very same moment, I too am reciting a traveler's prayer, the Jewish traveler's prayer. These prayers implore God to allow us to travel with ease, to guide us safely in peace, and to enable us to reach our destination safely. The similarity and importance of these prayers is symbolic of where we are going next on this shared journey between Israel and its Arab neighbors as they travel the road to peace that they have now embarked on. This road to peace is just the beginning. Over the years, there will be bumps in the road, significant bumps in the road perhaps. But I believe that the people of Abraham can and will walk a common path, the path of Abraham toward a better, brighter, and more tolerant future. I believe that the signatories to the Abraham Accords and others in the region who have not yet signed the Abraham Accords will move history forward for all of the people of the Middle East. I believe that the Abraham Accords will blossom beyond our wildest imaginations. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
What an extraordinary evening. This is the greatest life memory of any of our extraordinary galas we've ever had, not only because of our great honorees and our great speakers, but also the honor of having the greatest friend that Israel's ever had in the White House with us, President Donald Trump. And too many of us in this room forget he was also one of the greatest presidents for the United States of America in the White House. All of you, simply by being here, attending this extraordinary superstar historic gala, shows that you're a strong, proud, all of you, courageous activist Zionists. You are as committed to and love the Jewish state of Israel as much as the ZOA does, as much as President Donald Trump does, Jason Greenblatt does, General Avivi, Miri Adelson, Dershowitz, Joe Lubeck, Ali Meli, Stephen Sass, Myron Zimmerman, and Dr. Chiron Skinner. You in this room are all, and I mean this from my heart, pro-Israel honorees. Thank you so much for being here. As many of you may know, I have Tourette syndrome. I make sounds I can't control, and you've just heard an example of that. That's one of the reasons why the first woman who showed any interest in marrying me, I said yes immediately. I did not want to live alone. Thank you, Rita. I make a joke and I tell people I had to marry someone who's both deaf and blind. And people said, really? That's very kind of you to marry someone like that. I think it's true. With your support, ZOA fights for Israel through our great Center for Law and Justice headed by Susan Tuckman. ZOA fights for Israel through our campus programs in over 100 campuses led by Jonathan Greenberg. Ginsburg. ZOA fights for Israel through our government relations program on Capitol Hill led by Dan Pollack, and by holding an annual lobbying mission every day for our supporters to meet members of Congress and their staffs. ZOA fights for Israel through our student and adult trips to Israel, and our powerful writings in the media, our appearances on TV and radio, and lecturing throughout the country, even throughout the world. ZOA is virtually alone in pushing back publicly against and criticizing the unjust and unfair and irrational hostility some U.S. administration people and members of Congress display toward the Jewish state. This very week, the administration and some members of Congress have railed against the second largest party that would become part of the Israeli government, the religious Zionist party, by exaggerating and misrepresenting their policies, many of which were held decades ago and since then have been abrogated. But these same U.S. officials were and are deafeningly silent when a radical Muslim Brotherhood party, Ra'am, was part of the previous Israeli government. Ra'am opposed the Abraham Accords. Ra'am opposed the Jewish state. Ra'am calls Israel racist, one of the 300,000 Jews out of Judea and Samaria. But America didn't condemn Aram. These officials didn't condemn Aram, but they condemned the religious Zionist party. Furthermore, America didn't protest when radical Jew haters, Mohammed Shtaya, was appointed as the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority a few years ago, a man who glorifies and praises terrorists and terrorist attacks, a man who's against Israeli Jews being in the Middle East, who urges sanctions against Israel, accuses Israel of war crimes. America didn't condemn Mohammed Shtaya, but they condemned the religious Zionist party? And America doesn't condemn or refuses to deal with the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, who pays Arabs lifetime pensions to murder Jews, and they still work with him and praise him, who names hundreds of schools, streets, sports teams, and children's camps after Jew killers, but this administration still deals with him and praises him. A man who's refused to negotiate and who refuses to accept Israel as a Palestinian state. A man who has turned down every offer for statehood without a counteroffer. And yet this administration deals with Mahmoud Abbas and praises him as a moderate peace seeker. America won't condemn Mahmoud Abbas, this monster, this terrorist, this killer. But America condemns the Israeli religious Zionist party. This unjust double standard by the United States must be condemned publicly and must end. And moreover, U.S. officials are not only silent, but they praise Jew-hating Israel bashers in Congress, like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Betty McCollum. Yes. These people promote boycotting Israel, divesting from Israel, sanctioning Israel. They call Israel an apartheid state. They demand cutting Israel aid and say Israel is no ally. Speaker Congresswoman Pelosi took a picture with these Jew haters for the front page of Rolling Stone magazine, never criticized them, honored them. President Biden, and I'm sure you don't know this, he praised Rashida Tlaib in a recent speech saying, quote, "I admire you, Rashida Tlaib. I admire your intellect, your passion, your concern for people. You're a fighter, Rashida Tlaib, and God thanks you." What a disgrace. What a disgrace. And the Jewish world was silent. ZOA, of course, publicly condemned President Bush for this disgraceful display of praising a terrorist. President Biden, I've been up since very early this morning. But the members of the religious Zionist party are condemned by Secretary Blinken, Mr. Sullivan, Biden himself. They're condemned as extremists. We lovers of freedom and justice in Israel must demand these Israel haters suffer consequences for their anti-Jewish bigotry. They must be removed from every committee on which they serve. And concerning ZOA, I'm proud to inform you, since we're here with the great President Donald Trump, who, as we know, moved the embassy to Jerusalem after President Clinton said no, President Bush said no, President Obama said no, despite U.S. law passed in '95 requiring this. I must tell you, it was ZOA, alone among the Jewish groups, who alone initiated and worked with the great Senator John Kyle of Arizona to write and put together and work on the Jerusalem embassy legislation to move the embassy back in 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, no Jewish group initially supported this. They were against it. And no Jewish senator supported it. They were all against it, saying it will cause violence and peace will become impossible. Only President Trump understood. Not only was it the right thing, but there would be no significant response, and there was not. They didn't want to upset President Trump, who then would give them serious difficulties. They knew that that would happen with a man like President Trump in office. And why aren't Jewish leaders and Jewish groups and Israeli leaders and the Jewish media telling the truth of the Jewish city of Jerusalem that President Trump recognized as the undivided capital? I believe a factor that they're not telling the truth of this city is a factor in the rise of Jew hatred, because we don't tell the truth and expose the truth about the lies about Jerusalem, settlements, occupation, the Palestinian Authority, President Abbas, and a Palestinian terrorist state. Is Jerusalem holy to Muslims? It was the capital under King David 3,000 years ago, never the capital of any nation except Israel. You notice we call it the Temple Mount, not the Mosque Mount. It was the Jewish temple there. Since the first census in 1840, the majority of people living in Jerusalem have been Jewish. The Jewish holy books mention Jerusalem 700 times. It's never mentioned in the Quran. I don't curse, ladies and gentlemen. But if Jerusalem is so damn holy to the Muslims, why isn't it in their Quran? Because they have a holy mosque there, the city itself has never been holy to them. No Arab leader except from Jordan ever visited Jerusalem from 48 to 67 when the Arabs controlled it. An occupation. Is there an occupation? Occupation means you illegally stole someone else's sovereign land. This was never sovereign Palestinian Arab land. There was never a Palestinian state. It's a region. And by the way, Palestine, this is an Arab land, Palestine. Why is Palestine a Roman word? If it's an Arab land, why didn't they name it after an Arab name? Because it's the Romans who captured it from the Jews, who named it Palestine, a Roman name, after the Philistines to stick it to the Jews. This was never an Arab land. In fact, the Palestinians can't even say Palestine. Arabs can't pronounce the letter P. They can't say it. They say Palestine. They can't say it. This is Arab land? What kind of nonsense is this? And why aren't we saying so publicly? "40% of Judea and Samaria, 100% of Gaza was given over to the Arabs. That's where 99% of the Palestinians live. There's no occupation. They have their own parliament, schools, textbooks, newspapers, radio, TV, businesses, police force. There is no occupation of sovereign Arab land. I'm sick and tired of hearing this word. It's a lie, and we have to start saying so." We have to demonize the monster terrorist in the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. He's a moderate peace seeker. He calls the Jews full of filth. He's a Holocaust denier. His own charter says he opposes a political solution. We must destroy and demolish the Israeli entity. No Jew, he says, will be allowed in the Palestinian state. This is a moderate. He glorifies and has parades for Jew killers. His official emblem shows all of Israel, of Israel with a Palestinian keffiyeh over it. and he gives lifetime pensions to Arabs who murder Jews. And yet, not only do we not tell the truth about Abbas, let me tell you, when I met with President Barack Hussein Obama at the White House, he said to a group of us, you must talk to your friends and relatives in Israel. You must search your souls, he said to us, and see if you're serious about peace, because I don't think you are. But Mahmoud Abbas, he said, is sincere about peace, and everyone knows it. That's what this enemy of the Jewish people in Israel said at the White House to us. This isn't secondhand. I was there. So we have to make it clear that Abbas is a monster terrorist and not a peace seeker. We have to make it uncomfortable for college students and others to be supporting Mahmoud Abbas when he's this horrible. A Palestinian state, they turned down a state 8 times in the last 80 years, 4 times in the last 40 years. This would simply be another Syria, Iran, or Korea, or North Korea. This will be a Hamas-Iran state. When I asked Prime Minister Olmert, why did Abbas turn down your insane offer of 97% of Judea and Samaria, half of Jerusalem, 3% more of Israel? Why did he turn it down? I asked personally Prime Minister Olmert. He said to me, Abbas said to me, you have to get rid of 3 clauses. 1, we accept Israel as a Jewish state. I'm not signing that. 2, I can't bring refugees into Israel proper. He said, I'm not signing that. And 3, you have to get rid of the clause, no further claims. No further claims? That's why they're making the deal, so it's over. Olmert told me this himself. So Israeli leaders and Jewish leaders have to tell the truth about a Palestinian state, about Mahmoud Abbas, about occupation. We Jews who love Israel must fulfill the very meaning of the word Israel. It means literally fighter for God, Yisrael. Fighter for God is what it means. For Israelis and today's American Jews, to heed those appeasers, to pursue a vision of one-sided dangerous concessions, and reluctance to use real military action where appropriate against evil regimes like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Palestinian regime, and Iran, whose goal is clear: murdering Jews and destroying the Jewish state. By refusing to do so is to renounce the very name that identifies our moral purpose. This war of the Arab war against Israel is not about land. It's about Israel's existence. That's why offers of land fail every time. As Jews, we are divinely commanded in our holy Torah to pursue true justice, to fight evil, to defend those who seek our destruction, to defeat those who seek our destruction. We dare not flee from confrontation when the stakes are as high as they are today. We Jews did not come to Eretz Yisrael as colonialists. We came neither like the British imperialists, nor like the French colonizers in Algeria, nor like the English and Dutch settlers in South Africa. We did not come like immigrants seeking a new continent, a new homeland. We came back to our ancient home as the inhabitants of a country who had been driven away from it by force. This is our homeland. Let's never forget it. And I'll end by saying, in every generation, as the Passover Haggadah foresees, enemies will rise up against the Jewish people, but each time we overcome our enemies and we prevail. We have always emerged to rebuild and become stronger than before. In the future years will be a time of regeneration, hope, new opportunities, and stronger Jewish communities. The Torah promises that Israel is the Jewish homeland and will always be the Jewish homeland. That's what the Torah promises. And unlike politicians, except President Trump, God keeps his promises. God keeps his promises. So as the prophet Joshua says, be not afraid, for God is with you. The cause of Israel is moral and just. We must act and speak out with courage. Truth, justice, and God are on the side of Israel and the Jewish people. With your help, with the strength and the will of the Israeli people, with the strength and the will and the help of the Israeli Defense Forces, with the strength and the help of great, extraordinary leaders like President Donald Trump, and with the help of Almighty God, new miracles we can't see will occur, and the people of Israel shall dwell in their holy land for eternity. Never again dare we be the shash still Jews, the Jews of silence. And as long as we speak out, as long as we fight, as the word Israel means, fighter for God, we the Jewish people, and we the people of Eretz Yisrael will prevail. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'm always good for the seventh inning stretch. The Phillies almost won the World Series. I'm a Philadelphian. Now it's my honor to introduce by video, unfortunately, Dr. Miri Adelson, who's going to be introducing our guest of honor, had to be in Israel today for personal reasons, which she deeply regretted that she could not break. She always said to me, Mr. President, that if President Trump is going to be there, 100% I will be there. And yet something came up that she wasn't able to break. So I'm pleased to introduce the great philanthropist, the great doctor of addictive diseases, my friend, one of the great Republicans in the United States of America, Dr. Miri Adelson, will introduce President Donald Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a moment to savor and remember a truly historic moment. For our final and paramount honoree, President Donald J. Trump, for the United States, for Israel, and for all who love and support them, for the ZOA, of course, and for me personally. 4 years ago, almost the day I reached a pinnacle of my life in medicine, philanthropy, and political advocacy, when President Trump bestowed his Medal of Freedom upon me in the White House. And now the roles are reversed. It is I who is honoring him, and the medal he shall receive is also a supreme symbol of freedom. The Theodor Herzl Medallion is named after the visionary who 125 years ago put the Jewish people on the path back to nationhood in their ancient homeland, Israel. And the man who will wear it today is also a visionary, a US president who has always understood America's special bond with Israel and whose administration brought that alliance to unprecedented heights. Mr. President, Donald, you are like Theodor Herzl in many ways. Like you, he was a showman as well as a statesman. Like you, he had profound energy and sense of purpose. And like you, he was adored and admired by multitude, but regrettably was sometimes opposed by the very people he was trying to help most. Theodor Herzl never got to see the fruition of his dream, the rebirth of the State of Israel. By contrast, Mr. President, you have lived the dream in full. It was your hand that signed the presidential decrees recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the Golan Heights as Israel's sovereign territory. It was also your hand that protected Israel by ripping up the disastrous Iran nuclear deal and cutting off funding for anti-peace Palestinians. It was your eyes that oversaw the opening of the US Embassy in Jerusalem, and your ears that heard the jubilation that followed all over the world, in Israel and among untold millions of diaspora Jews and evangelical Christians. And it was your brave stand that made others brave, leading Arab countries to make peace with Israel for the first time in a quarter century. And tonight, you have joined us. Every inch the president we all know and love, the best friend Israel ever in the White House. The future calls. Who knows what other miracles you have up your sleeves? What we do know is that, like Herzl, your name adorns Zionist history, a history still being written and in which you will no doubt continue to play an epic role. Let me thank you, and not just on my behalf, on behalf also of my beloved late husband Sheldon, who valued you so, and who tragically could not be with us to witness this great day. And on behalf of the countless Israeli and American who held and still hold you dear, and the countless more who will be born into the better world that you made. May you forever feel that warmth in your heart when you wear the Theodore Herzl medallion over it, Mr. President. God bless you and keep you. Thank you.
Mr. President, it is my pleasure to specifically present to you the Theodore Herzl Medallion, rarely given by the United States, by the Zionist Organization of America. We've only given this to Lord Balfour, Winston Churchill, President Truman, David Ben-Gurion, Golda Meir, and now we'll be giving it to you. I'll formally introduce you. I just want to remind you of a few things that haven't been said. He gave us, Mr. President gave us a groundbreaking memorandum of understanding with Bahrain to end anti-Semitism, promote respect and coexistence between the Arabs and the Jewish people. An executive order to strengthen Title VI to protect Jewish students from harassment and discrimination. He imposed maximum sanctions on Iran. He stopped giving $500 million in funds to the PA as long as the PA pays Arabs to murder Jews. He stopped funding UNRWA, which teaches Arab children to hate Jews and to harm Jews. He publicly authorized that Judea and Samaria residents are there legally, recognized as legal. He reversed discriminatory labeling regulations that facilitated boycotts against Israel products made in Judea and Samaria. He allowed Americans born in Jerusalem for the first time to list Israel as a place of birth on their passports. Before Mr. President did this, Americans born in Jerusalem could only write birth, date of birth, place of birth, Jerusalem. Because of President Trump, they now can say Jerusalem, Israel. He uprooted the last known Nazi war criminal in the U.S. after years of inaction. He appointed the greatest friends of Israel to important posts affecting U.S.-Israel relations, as opposed to this administration. And he's the first president ever to pray at the Holy Western Wall. No president ever did. And of course, for all these reasons, and for the Abraham Accords, Mr. President, you deserved, unquestionably, the Nobel Peace Prize for your extraordinary work. Extraordinary work. So it is my honor and my privilege to present to you the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump.
That's a beauty. That's a beauty. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a job he did. What a job he did. That's passion. Only people that have passion like that succeed. I've seen that over the years, and that's true. And you have it. And thank you very much, Mort. Again, I want to start by just welcoming everybody. This has been an honor for me. And, you know, the invitation said tuxedo optional. And I think I'm the only one. No, we have a couple. But actually, and I always do the optional. I always take the other option because I hate putting on a tuxedo. But in honor of Israel, I decided that I think I should wear a tuxedo tonight. So that was very important. So, Mort, thank you very much, and for your tremendous leadership of the Zionist Organization of America, as well as the National Board Chair, a friend of mine, and a great lawyer, maybe the greatest lawyer in our country. In many ways, I really believe that David Schoen. David has been incredible. A very talented man and a good man, and he loves Israel very much, don't you, David, huh? Very, very, very much. We talk about it a lot. Let me also recognize Jason Greenblatt, former, where's Jason? Is he here? Jason? Hello, Jason. He's a good real estate lawyer. I'll tell you, you're a good other kind of a lawyer, but he's a good real estate lawyer. Great one. That's great, Jason. Nice to see you. Former Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. Where's Pete? Pete, I didn't see you there. I'm sitting right next to you practically. What a great gentleman he is, and he was an early supporter, very early supporter, and he's fantastic. Michelle Bachmann, thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. And Dr. Skinner, thank you. What a job. That was a beautiful job. Thank you. Please stand up. Thank you very much. Great job. I appreciated your words, and good to see you again. Matt Schlapp, we all know Matt Schlapp. CPAC. Rita Cosby, my friend, thank you very much, Rita. Thank you very much. General Amir Vivi of Israel. Thank you very much, General. Good generals over there, right? They need them. I must tell you, you need good generals over there. You don't have them, you won't be there long. That's unfortunate. So I assume you're good. Are you good? Yes, he is. He says yes. Members of the Israeli Knesset are here, a lot of them, and we appreciate that very much. Great respect. Amir Ohana. Amir Ohana. Good, thank you. And Simcha Rothman. Thank you. Simcha, thank you very much. That's great. Tonight I stand before you proudly to accept the Theodore Herzl Medallion. To everyone here at the Zionist Organization of America, thank you for bestowing me with this incredible honor. It really is, especially when Mort read some of the names that received it. And I didn't see any clinkers in those names. It wasn't like Joe Smith. Who the hell is that, right? There were no weak ones in there. That's a good group. So thank you very much, Mort. That was great. More than 125 years ago, Herzl dreamed of a Jewish state and the Jewish homeland. Herzl wrote, "The Jews who will it shall achieve their state. We shall live at least as free men in our own soil," and that's so true. "The world will be liberated by our freedom, enriched by our wealth, and magnified by our greatness. And whatever we attempt there will be for our own benefit, will rebound mightily and beneficially to the good of all mankind." You see how that worked out. Incredible, actually. Beautiful words. Half a century later, after the Jewish people had endured and persevered through the bottomless evils of the Nazi Holocaust, and that dream finally came true. That was a big dream, and it came true. Today, the State of Israel stands as a living tribute to the unbreakable spirit of the Israeli people and the glory of Almighty God. What an achievement. Out of the generations of suffering and from the heart of an arid desert has emerged a proud, mighty, and thriving nation to inspire the entire world. Great. The United States and Israel are not just allies on a military basis, but economically and politically, we're allies morally, culturally, and spiritually, and we always will be. At least if I have anything to do about it, I will tell you. But some people, you do have some people in this country that don't, thank you very much, but you do have people in this country that happen to be Jewish that are not doing the right thing for Israel. You know that, too many. In fact, just as you were saying how much we've done, as you know, the Democrats get 75% of the vote, which is hard to believe, right? No, it's hard to believe. We can't let that continue. I think we're going to have to work. We're going to have to listen to Mort and David do a little speaking, I think. You're going to have to give a little lecture to some of the people. You understand what I mean? It's hard to believe. When you say all of the horrible things that have taken place with Biden and Barack Hussein Obama, and then they get 75% of the vote. What the hell is going on here, Mort? But we're going to get it changed. I mean, they have to. They really have to. They need more support. There's people in Congress that hate Israel. And nobody thought when I was growing up, and really as probably close as even 10 years, but certainly 15 years ago in Congress, I think Israel was, you couldn't touch Israel. You couldn't say a bad thing about it. And today, what they're saying, you mentioned AOC plus 3. It's really AOC plus a lot more than 3, unfortunately. It started off with 3, now it's a lot more than 3. We have to stop that. Israel's too important, too vital, and you have to think about it. As president, I was proud to be the best friend. This has been stated by many, so I'm just repeating it, but the best friend the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. I think that's certain. Under my leadership, the alliance between the United States and Israel had never been stronger. The future of the Middle East had never been brighter, it never looked brighter. And today, with you, and these have been repeated, but I'll go over them very quickly. I withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, which I actually think maybe is the single most important thing, and that includes Jerusalem and everything else, because they want to destroy Israel. But it threatened Israel with nuclear destruction, and they are to this day, and I imposed the toughest ever sanctions on the Iranian regime, and we would have had an incredible deal worked out, but we had an election which was far better than my first run. We did much better than my first. We got many, many millions of more votes. We got more votes than any sitting president, David, in history. You know that very well. And something screwy with our elections, as you probably know, and because of that, we're now in a very bad position. Iran was weakened. Iran was ready to make a deal, and they are now very wealthy. They're now getting and selling oil from and to China. China is a big, big buyer, and when I was there, I told China, you can't do that. We're not going to do business with you if you do it. And they were doing no business, and they were ready to make a deal, but now it's a much different place. What's taken place in a short period of time is incredible and incredibly bad for Israel. In my first trip abroad, as president, I summoned together the leaders of the world's Arab and Muslim nations. You'll remember that, and urged them to vanquish radical Islamic terrorism from their societies. It was a very important day and very important week. This helped pave the way for really historic progress. Working with both our Arab and Israeli partners, the U.S. military destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate, 100% of it, 100%. Not 98 or 99. It was 100%. People were shocked, people were surprised, and we did it rather quickly. I was told by some of our television generals, it would take 3 years. And I said, really? Really? And I went, as you remember, to Iraq, and I met with other generals. You know, we have great generals. You don't see them. They're not television generals. They're real generals. And I met with a general, Raisin Cain. Did you ever hear of Raisin Cain? Matt heard the story. Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain said to me, I think we can do it in about 3 weeks, sir. I said, 3 weeks? They tell me 3 years. And it probably, you know, we can do it in 3 weeks. If you give me the order, I'll do it in 3 weeks, sir. And you know what? He did it in 3 weeks, and we got rid of it. We got rid of it. For decades, every previous president had promised to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. You know that. This has gone on for decades, everybody, every one of them, David, right? And they never kept their promise. And I did, but I will tell you, there was tremendous pressure. I was really upset with them. I'd say, why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they? But when I got to the White House, I was called by every leader, and I certainly will tell you, every leader in the Middle East, and most leaders even outside the Middle East, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So I devised a great scheme. I knew what they were calling about. You know, they'd always have a reason to call, and it was about not moving the embassy to Jerusalem. And I said, all right, look, tell them I'll call them back next week. I'm going to call them back. I'm so tied up with something, which was this move, that I'll call them back next week. And these are the biggest people, the most powerful people, all people that you know very well. And they wanted to know, they wanted to speak to us, very important. I call them back next week. But before next week, I said, let's have a news conference today. And we had a news conference, and I announced that very important thing. I kept my promise, and I officially, and I officially recognized the eternal capital of Israel. We soon opened the American embassy in Jerusalem, and it was a great thing. And then I called her back after that. I said, hi, how you doing? Everything good? How's your country doing? Good, good, good. Okay, you called me last week. What's up? What do you want? I had about 25 of those calls, if you want to know the truth, Mort. A lot of those calls, but that was a lot easier. And they just said to me, you know, we wanted to try and talk you out of it. It's a little late, isn't it? I said, yeah, it's done. It's done. And you're right, there was no bloodshed. You know, we were told the entire world was going to blow up. And as you know, something that nobody talks about, we also dealt very strongly with the Palestinians. And everybody went to the Palestinians first, and so did I. We went to the Palestinians first to negotiate, and we couldn't get anywhere. They were just, you know, very difficult. They treated me nicely, with respect, but they were very difficult. And I said, you're never going to make a deal if you're going to go here first. You have to maybe go to them last. And I said, how much money do we pay to the Palestinians? And it was $750 million a year. That's a lot of money. And not a lot compared to what we pay to other people and for other stupid things, if you want to know the truth. Very stupid, unbelievably stupid things. But they said $750 million. I said, well, they're saying really bad things about all of us. And they're saying death to the USA and death to Israel and all this. Why are we giving them $750? And I stopped payment. You know. And I did indeed. I stopped, and we would have had to deal with them had we been there. You know, we have the 4 countries and the Abraham Accords. We would have had to deal with them, absolutely. But I asked somebody from one of the other administrations, did you ever think of stopping payment on the $750 million that you pay them all the time? And who knows where it goes? I can imagine where it goes. They said, sir, that's not the way we do business. I said, then you stupid people. They didn't do business like that. And another one is I recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And, you know, Miriam and Sheldon, who are really great friends of mine, and I want you to thank them very much. Thank Miriam very much, and Sheldon, we miss him greatly. He was a great guy, and I'll tell you, he lived for Israel. That is a man you didn't have to talk to about Israel. He lived for Israel, but he was great, and his wife is equally great. She's incredible, and I appreciate her statements. But the one thing, they didn't really even talk about Golan Heights because they figured that one they probably won't get. And one day I said, tell me about Golan Heights. I went to Jason Greenblatt, and I went to our great ambassador, and I said, tell me about Golan Heights. Do me a favor, keep it under 3 or 4 minutes because I'm busy. And they told me about the protection and on high and how for 52 years, that was 3 years ago, for 52 years, planes would come into Israel in different places. They'd meet, and they'd meet every year, Jason, right? Then they'd talk and drink and have a fun and have parties and leave, and nothing would ever happen. So I made a decision. I would say the decision took less than 5 minutes, that we should recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And that was one that most people, even Sheldon and Miriam, but that was one that most people didn't even ask about because they said, that's too much, we can't do that. What they wanted is more than anything else, they wanted Jerusalem, and they wanted to have the embassy in Jerusalem. One of the things we did is they walked into my office, one of the generals, sir, what is it, General? I have something for you to say. What is it? $2 billion. We're going to buy $2 billion, and plus we're going to build an embassy because I had already approved it. I say, why $2 billion? And how do you do a one-story building? Any real estate people? How do you do a one-story building for $2 billion plus the land? So I called up David Friedman, and I said, David, the ambassador, did a really good job, too. I called, really good. I said, David, you're over there. Do we have any land over there? You know, the United States always has a lot of land because we were there for a long time at every place. We're always there for a long time. And he said, well, I'll check, because they wanted to buy a bad location for numbers that were crazy. And I said, doesn't seem right. Do we have a better location than that? A better piece of land? And he calls me back the following day. We have the best piece of land. And you all know exactly where it is because that's where the embassy is built. But we have the best piece of land, and it's very big, and it has incredible views, and it's much better than what they were looking at. And it costs us nothing. And there's a building on it. And I think we could renovate the building. I said, how much? He said, I'll call you back tomorrow. He calls me back tomorrow. Sir, we can do it for $275,000. That's much less than $2 billion. And it's the first time I've ever done this. I said, David, that sounds too cheap. Make it more. Usually I say, we could do it for better. But, for $275,000, that doesn't. But the building was a very solid building, very good. It had everything. It was even set back from the street because for, unfortunately, terrorism reasons and other reasons, you wanted set back. It was set back far further than what you had to do. And I said, let's make it $500,000, David. $500,000, not $2 billion. And we got it built in 4 months, and we opened it. So, because otherwise you'd still be negotiating for the original piece of land. Nothing would have it wouldn't have been built for 20 years. I just know, unfortunately, the way it works. So we got it open, built. And a friend of mine, I tell the story, he's very proud. He's a very proud person of an incredible Jewish believer and a believer in Israel. And he's very proud of the fact that in his office space, in a beautiful big office building in New York, he has Jerusalem stone. As you leave the elevators, you look at Jerusalem stone. Some people know who I'm talking about. Big, strong, powerful guy. He loves Israel. And every time I walk in, he says, look at this Jerusalem stone. I say, how many times do you have to tell me about Jerusalem stone? So it was in my head. So I said to my people that are doing the building, I said, can you get Jerusalem stone for a good price? He said, it's the cheapest stone we can get. It's all over the place. And we built the whole embassy in Jerusalem stone. Can you believe that? And we got it done for less than $500,000. And only a fool would want to change it because that's nicer than a building if they spent $1 billion on the building. This is better and it's nicer. And it was a great honor. It was sort of an interesting story because we got it done. We got it built very quickly. And when we opened it, it was just something that was sort of a miracle to a lot of people, especially. A lot of great Jewish people, they felt it was a miracle. And you know who else? Evangelicals. You have great allies with the Christian evangelicals. Incredible, actually. They love Israel. But I withdrew from the corrupt, hypercritical UN Human Rights Council. As you know, it was terrible what they were doing. And in so many other ways, so it's got such potential. The UN, to me, has such potential, but it's not being used or utilized. I mean, when do they do peace? I mean, the deal could have been made so easy. It would have never happened if I were president. The Russian invasion of Ukraine never would have happened. But the United Nations should be doing this stuff. This should never have happened. I know President Putin very well. I know Zelensky very well, great relationship with him. And this would have never, ever happened. What a shame to see all these people dying, and the numbers are far greater than what you hear. You know, you see a city blown up, buildings crushing to the ground. Many of those buildings are loaded up with people, and then they'll say 2 people were injured. No. Hundreds of people were killed. Not 2 people were injured, hundreds of people. They don't say it. When you go into a city and you obliterate it, you don't lose 2 people, or you don't get a couple of people hurt. You lose hundreds and hundreds of people. The numbers are far worse than what you hear. But the United Nations has tremendous potential, but they have to use it. There's a deal that would have never happened, and it could be that Taiwan is next. If you look at Taiwan and you look at what's happening with China right now, it looks like that's going to be perhaps next. But it became nothing but a forum for the world's worst human rights abuses to attack America and Israel. The only democracy in the Middle East, really a great democracy too. I appointed a special envoy to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism worldwide and here at home, and used every resource, thank you, at my disposal to stop the growing specter of anti-Semitism on college campuses. We've done a great job on college campuses. Who would think that that would be even necessary? It's not even possible to believe. But we did a great job on college campus. And last but not least, we created peace in the Middle East with the historic Abraham Accords. We're so proud of that, Jason. So proud of that. The most important breakthrough for peace in generations. It's just nobody believed that was possible. The only sad thing is that it should be going much further. They could have, I think we would have had everybody signed up by now. Every single, they've increased it by 0. I mean, they have nothing, just nothing. And they actually do respect it. They hate to say it. They don't like to say it. They don't like to talk about it, but they do respect what we did. I'm talking about the Biden administration. The problem is they have nobody to do anything with it because we have other countries that are dying to go in. You could have total peace in the Middle East and quickly. With the Abraham Accords, we enhanced Israel's security. We improved the lives of the Israeli people, and we created incredible opportunities for economic growth, incredible actually. And now you see planes going back and forth, which nobody ever thought it could happen. And these were 4 really respected nations as our first. Tragically, under the Biden administration, these amazing achievements are being deliberately halted and even reversed. From the day he took office, Joe Biden has been groveling to the Iranian dictatorship to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, which, by the way, and I'll say it again, it was the best thing I did for Israel. I think more important than anything else. More important, because they truly want to destroy the country. And it was interesting because when David was mentioning some of the points, mentioned that, but that really, it was in many respects the most difficult thing because I had a lot of people within the administration, a lot of people within the military, they didn't want to do that. And now they all admit that I was right. And now and yet Biden goes in and he's trying to make another deal that's actually much worse. It's a worse deal. It's not even, frankly, believable. But he unilaterally lifted the key sanctions, enriching the world's top state sponsor of terror. In exchange for absolutely nothing, he got nothing. You know, as people that like to think in terms of negotiation, I do. I think you should get something for doing what we did, but he got nothing. Biden's shocking weakness helped provoke a sustained missile assault on Israeli civilians, which is unthinkable that could have happened, would have never happened with me. That tragically killed actually many people. They don't know the number. Rather than standing with our ally Biden, shamefully criticized Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel for defending itself. All you're doing is defending yourself. It's hard to believe. I remember that whole period of time when they were being criticized for fighting back just a little bit. They didn't fight back much, they fought back a little bit, and they were being incredibly condemned. In addition, Biden appointed numerous anti-Israel radical leftists to key government posts, including those who have supported the anti-Semitic BDS movement that calls for economic warfare against the state of Israel. And these betrayals are outrageous, and they're just unacceptable. It's so unacceptable. Under Republican leadership, and I can't say all Republicans, because you have Republican presidents that didn't do a damn thing for Israel, okay? But I did. And you have to be careful with the people you put in office. Because we will, speaking for myself and my administration, and we'll be making a statement on Tuesday night. We'll see what happens. We'll keep you in this massive suspense. Everyone's saying, oh, gee, I wonder what he's going to do. But we'll defend our interests and our shared security. We'll advance the cause of liberty, and we'll protect our sovereignty, and we'll secure our borders. And that includes, we're helping your favorite country outside of this country, I guess. Does anybody love Israel more than the United States? Am I allowed to ask that question? They're going, let's not get into that, right? Let's not get into that, David. But you love them both, and we'll preserve our great Western biblical tradition, which indeed it is, and will ensure that the United States and Israel stand strong and proud and free as nations for many, many generations to come. And again, I want to thank everybody, and Mort and David in particular. We really appreciate it. And I just leave by saying Israel is a very, very special place. It's an amazing place. It's really a miracle, if you think about it, what Jewish people have gone through and what Israel has gone through, and all of the incredible work and incredible brilliance to have it shaped the way it's been shaped. But it's very delicate, and you have to be very careful with it, because really bad things can happen. And so I just say I am with you all the way. I love Israel. I love everyone in this room. And this is a truly great honor. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you.